Hello and welcome. My name is Cliona Foley and this is Off the Bench, a podcast about women in sport which we hope will educate and entertain people of all ages and genders. Tonight we're very excited because we're talking football, or soccer as some people call it in this country. We're on the cusp of the Women's World Cup in France. 24 teams, 4 weeks of football, 52 games, and then one game for glory. And so we're delighted to be joined tonight by two people who know way more about football than I do. On my left is Rianna Jarrett and next to her is Ruth Fahy. Welcome to Off the Bench.
Thanks, Cliona.
Thanks for having us. Rianna is an Irish international, Wexford youth star striker, and amazingly, Women's National League Player of the Year last year after coming back from your third cruciate. How amazing was it to win that? Exactly.
It crowned off a great season for me. Obviously started the season with Wexford Youths, which was first time in a long time. Yeah. Was back in the international setup in the summer in June for the doubleheader against Norway. Wexford Youths, we won the Shield, the league, which made me qualify for the Champions League, and then we finished it off winning the FAI Cup in the Aviva, and then the following week then I was named Player of the Year, which was great for me.
Season.
Yeah.
Nice year.
Really good year after everything you'd been through, yeah. And how do you mentally come back on the third cruciate? Like, I know people who've done two, I've had both, I've done two, but not surgeries, but how did you keep it together?
I don't know, to be honest, because I remember after I'd done my first one, I was back playing, I was delighted. I went to America for a couple of months, and one of my friends out there had done hers for the second time, and we were chatting, and I was like, I don't think I'd be able to come back from it again if I'd done it for the second time. And then I came home and a couple of months later done it for the second time.
Same leg, Rianna?
The same. So I done two on my right first and then one on my left.
That's often the trend. Go on. And then the third one as well? And
then the third one was April 2016. Was away with the Irish team. Kind of struggled with that one a little bit at the start. I didn't know whether I wanted to come back and play properly or whether I wanted to play at all. But then in the October, I got a new physio or a new strength and conditioning coach, and we just sat down and had a big chat and put everything on the table. And after that, I was like, no, first of all, I just wanted to come back and to be able to go out on the street with my brothers, my friends, and play. Yeah. And then when I started doing the rehab, I was like watching the girls play week in, week out. I was like, no, definitely want to get back in.
But you know what it was, Rhi? Because I joined youths for one season from 2015, 2016. So you did your ACL when, was it midway through that season?
Yeah.
And I always saw you were so good at you were there at every single session, every single session. And even when you're at the stage where you could barely run, you were doing your own thing. You're off with the physio, off with the coach, by yourself. But that I just thought, I was just like, wow, because I knew when you kept coming that you would make it back again.
Yeah.
Whereas I found I did my ACL 3 years ago now, this week actually, and I wasn't, because I couldn't make it back to the end of the season, so I didn't join in with the team, and you just lose touch.
Lonely rehab, and it's a terribly lonely rehab.
Yeah, you lose touch, you lose motivation, and you just lose complete confidence in yourself as well. Whereas you were there, and it's just when you committed to that, then it paid off with that season you came back.
And did you make that concerted thing that I'm going to go, or did you just naturally drift back, or did you?
It was just because when I was training, I was always there. I mean, to be fair to me, Wexford Youths was 10 minutes from my house. Yes. So it wasn't as if I was travelling far. But we are so close down there, I felt like if I didn't go, I wouldn't see the girls. So I wouldn't be seeing my friends week in, week out. And for me, I was just like, I don't want to do that. And then obviously it happened that there was a couple of us at the same time as well that had done our ACL, so that kind of helped, and especially Adele Kennedy, because she wouldn't let you not do anything. If you weren't doing it, she'd be like, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing this? So after the third one, me and her came back. I came back the week before her. So it was
just around
a nice feeling. Yeah.
And Ruth, obviously you've won a treble. You won a treble, I think, Irish treble, didn't you? With
one and only,
you're a regular contributor not only to this show, but also you contribute, and you've had a column on Irish women's football, which is very unusual. Ruth had a column on the Irish Women's National League, which was brilliant, and educated me for a few years when you were doing it.
I'm glad someone read it.
You're still a trainee solicitor, but you have a very exciting job coming up that relates to the World Cup.
Yeah, I do. It kind of came as a surprise, but I'm obviously delighted. First of all, I was so happy to hear that TG Gallagher and RT were hosting the whole tournament, showing every single game, which is amazing. A huge movement in itself. So I'll be doing some of, not all of, the co-commentary throughout the tournament. So I think about 10 to 12 games in total. And as part of that, get to go over for the final week. So I'm very excited.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I wish I had known. I would have gotten
Big suitcase. Rihanna's going to the suitcase. Oh, that's fantastic.
No, I have about 6 people in my room already. Just but like there's always space for more. No problem.
Brilliant. And what's your first game, live game you're doing co-commentary on?
First one is tomorrow, Norway and Nigeria.
And who's doing it with you?
With George Hamilton, who's doing the first one.
Safe pair of hands.
Yeah.
Danger here, you'll be happy.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I met George at the launch on Tuesday and I kind of expressed a few fears about pronouncing the Nigerian surnames, and I just said,
no, it's hard.
Look, meet up, we'll leave it with me, we'll get it. You know, he's a proper pro. Like, I think if you want to have one person there.
And he's absolutely really particular in pronunciation of names, and he's a real bilingual, so he's always brilliant on names. So he'll
You're covered, so.
I'll just zip it for those.
Well, look, we're here to talk about the Women's World Cup because a lot of people are excited about it, obviously. And just before we start, and as I said, you're the expert, and we're going to break it down and have a quick look through the groups and see who the two women think will eventually end up in the final on is it July 7th, I think. So it's June 7th, July to the July 7th. A really interesting context. I mean, it's only 28 years, and I was reading up some history. We have a Norwegian woman to thank for the Women's World Cup, a woman called Ellen White, who she went to the FIFA, the annual FIFA, the big congress that they have, whatever, every few years, and there was one in Mexico in 1986, and she stood up and she said, we have got to do something about women. You're not promoting women. You're not doing enough for women. And there was at the time there was a sort of a developmental international. Then there was one in Mexico, and then there was another one. There was a tournament in Italy that teams used to go to. But as a result of her speaking up, Ellen White speaking up, that's where the Women's World Cup came from. And the first one was in 1988 in China.
So recent, isn't it?
Isn't it very recent? Crazy. Sorry, first one was that international tournament, the Mexican international tournament was 1988. The first Women's World Cup was 1991. And the really interesting thing about
I was born in 94.
Yeah. 1991 was the first one. And interesting enough, only 12 teams in it.
Yeah.
They only played 80-minute games, as one of the Americans famously said, because they were afraid our over was going to fall out if we played 90. So they would only let them play 80 minutes. So it's really fascinating how it changed. And the one I remember, I'm a bit older than you, but I always remember 1999 because the Americans hosted it. They drove it. FIFA wanted them to play it in smaller stadiums, and the Americans said no, we're going for big stadiums and we'll fill them, and they did. And then there was that famous scene when they beat. I think it went to golden goal. It went to sudden death against themselves and China.
Yeah.
And it was still scoreless, and it went to penalties. And then Brandy Chastain scored with her left foot the winning and pulled off.
She takes off her top then,
off the top.
And absolutely shredded as well. So
and she was. Yeah, exactly. She could take it off. But you wouldn't remember this because you're too young, but like I remember even in the media, the scandal over her taking off her top. The scandal over a woman in a sports bra.
If that happened now, though, it's still.
Do you think? I don't think they care anymore.
Like it rarely does happen in celebration, does it?
I feel that they pick at something to try and go at, and I do think that if that was to happen in a major tournament, that
it'd be really interesting because we see women pulling their shirts off all the time now in international games, and I don't think people notice that much, but I do remember and I was like, what's the big deal? It's a sports bra. But I remember the media coverage was
just gone.
But it helped to bring attention. But the fact the Americans did so well was incredible, and that was the one that sticks out in my mind. I don't know if there's one that sticks out in your mind, but that one sticks out in my mind.
I'd like to say it was that one, but like I didn't watch it.
The only one I really watched was Canada.
The last one.
The last one. 2015. That's where I would have watched as many games as possible in that one.
And like America, you see, they had wall-to-wall coverage. They had big crowds. They sold lots of tickets.
Like it's about the coverage, because I remember being so excited just looking up the TV schedule, like, and seeing what you could see and what you couldn't see. The games were a little bit later because of
the time
difference, but it was perfect as well.
If you remember, did you get to watch the final last year? Obviously with USA and Japan. I was absolutely like knackered, but stayed
just
up to
hanging
watch
on,
it.
trying to watch it.
And it was totally worth it for Carly Lloyd to get a hat trick and 1 goal from halfway line.
I know, they were phenomenal.
Yeah, but it was an incredible tournament. But even in saying that, so many people like here in Ireland didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to spread the word and say to people, like, have you seen it? Are you watching it? They didn't even know it was on.
They didn't know it was on, because if it's not on mainstream Irish TV,
if it's not on mainstream Irish TV, and if it's in a different time zone.
Yeah.
So this is the big thing about this one. Do you think that will be a factor in people watching this?
Well, I hope so. I mean, we've no excuses now for people to tune in. They can watch it at home. They don't have to go out of their way, and it's the similar time difference as well.
Most of the games are from 5 o'clock onwards.
Yeah.
It's on live TV. It'll be, people will come home and see it. I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Even in Olympics, that makes a big difference, you know, to people getting behind a thing or getting interested in it. So that is a big thing, I think, as well, the fact that it's on in our time zone and there's so much coverage of it. And so we will be listening with interest. Ruth, you obviously have to do a lot of homework between now and then.
I must get your schedule off you, actually.
I'll text it to you later.
We'll be sending a text during it. So look, that's where it is. Now we're here. I was looking, the biggest venue probably is Lyon. That's where the final is going to be. It's 58,000 in Lyon. So that's going to be the key place. But 9 venues. Most of them sell, I think Grenoble might be 18,000, but most of them are over 20,000. And they're talking about already 950,000 tickets sold. That's not that big. If you look at in Canada and America, whenever they host it, it's over 1 million, like well over 1 million. And I think the last one was 1.35, I think. So it'll be interesting to see whether it pushes on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The reports in recent days are that there's more coverage of the men's French. There's more signs for the men's French team.
International, going on at the moment as well.
They have 2 friendlies, like against Albania and Andorra.
The timing isn't great for that sort of stuff. Even I was in work this morning and one of the boys was asking me, he was like, "Oh, are you watching the football tonight?" And I automatically thought he was on about the Women's World Cup, because that's what I'm looking forward to. But then he was like, "I actually forgot that Ireland were playing Denmark tonight as well." So I suppose with the men's international games being on at the start of the Women's World Cup, is probably not ideal for the coverage, because people will naturally tune in to men's games before they will for the women's. But hopefully when those 2 games are out of the way and the World Cup starts to pick up a bit, that people
and
will
I think the French Open as well being on in Paris as well has obviously also taken some of the coverage away from it. So that's disappointing, but let's hope it kicks on, and let's hope we see lots of it and we see lots of reaction to it. We'll have a look at the groups and let's see what you think. I'm really interested to see what you think. First of all, America are defending champions. They're the only team to ever win it 3 times. They're looking to win it 2 in a row, which Germany have done in the past, actually. Germany won 2 in a row. So it's a kind of I think it's a really interesting thing.
I think them and Japan are looking to make the final 3 times in a row as well, because obviously Japan beat them on penalties, the previous one before that. So that's been an interesting showdown as well.
Yeah, I think to get people interested in women's team sport, there has to be context. People have to understand what are the rivalries, who are the players to watch. So that's what we're going to try and do today with this, is just to kind of give people some context for what we're looking at. So let's have a look at the groups anyway. France, people are talking about France. I mean, host team obviously don't have to qualify, I presume. They
automatic qualification.
They get automatic qualification. So is it kind of hard to know what they're like, or what do you make of them, Ruth?
I'm just going on a limb straight away. If someone asked me who my favourite was to win, I'm actually saying France. I think for a couple of reasons. I think they've won 13 out of their last 14 consecutive games. Just looking, if you guys saw the Women's Champions League final, the spine of that team,
they've got a lot of Lyon.
Outrageous players. When you look at the spine, there's Lesomere at the top, Henri in the middle, and Renard at the back, Mbak beside her, and like they're just, I don't know, there's something about it, and there's something to be a bit magical as well. I get a bit romantic about these things. Like if
get romantic.
You know, like if the men wins the World Cup and the women win it, that would be amazing. It's in France, which is absolutely massive. Like the support's going to be huge. And they're on a great run. They've had disappointing turnouts historically in the World Cup. They got to the quarters last year in the semis, or the time before that. So they'll be gunning to make their mark on the world.
They've never made a semi-final, as far as I know. I don't think they have. I could be wrong in that. But certainly they went out to Germany. They went out to penalties to Germany the last time. I remember that. So, but you're right, home advantage can be a big factor, and as you said, particularly when the men are world champions.
Off the back of that, there'll be an automatic buzz around the country and their camp. I imagine the men's team will be linking in with them as well, obviously after their
And they have some really, as you say, that central spine is really strong, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. They're world class players, right? Like they're so experienced. I think Henri was runner up to Carly Lloyd as player of the tournament in Canada in 2015 as well. So they're just going to go into it with so much confidence. They're playing South Korea tonight. I wouldn't say a handy win, but I think they'll definitely come out on top there.
They want. They're in a group with Norway and Nigeria, and of course the really interesting thing is that Norway's best player and certainly the best striker in the world at the moment, Ada Hegerberger, is not playing for Norway because I think it's probably a combination of her not agreeing with the support they're getting, but also not being happy with what's happened in terms of the coaching of the team. I don't think it's just about.
We don't really know.
Get that impression.
We don't really know, do we? Like this.
At first, they were saying obviously the equality and the pay gap and and stuff like that, but I don't think she is happy with the overall setup. I mean, it must take an awful lot for a player like herself.
I mean, it's Roy Keane, really. Like it is like Roy Keane saying it's not good enough, I'm leaving. It is very interesting, but except that she said well in advance, I'm not playing.
But the other part is they actually they brought in equal pay for the men and the women.
Yeah, and she still hasn't gone back.
It's not about that. It obviously goes much deeper than that. But I'm personally gutted not to see her there, but credit to her and respect.
Yeah, for sticking to her guns as well.
She's incredibly strong. She's a Ballon d'Or, obviously, winner. People
scored
remember
a hat-trick in the Champions League final.
Oh, amazing.
It's like that is.
I was just please, make it this a bit more watchable.
Unbelievable.
She's a beautiful player. She really has every way. So it'll be interesting to see what they're like without her. They have that Caroline Janssen, I think, is their kind of their other big go-to player. So they'll obviously be looking to her.
Would you would have played against Norway?
Yeah, so we played double header against them this time last year, so at the start of June.
They were in your qualifying group.
They topped the group actually, and Netherlands went through in the playoffs.
What are they like up close? Physically?
They're a physical team. They're big, they're strong. They do move the ball well. But we contested with them in both games. First game in Tala, we conceded 2 sloppy goals, one from a set piece. So we kind of shot ourselves in the foot from the outset. And then even out there in Norway, a couple of days later, we unfortunately conceded a penalty. And we were pushing towards the end to try and get that equalising goal, and we just didn't manage to do so.
People have said, they're ranked 12th or something. People like Norway are a dark horse, because that group also includes South Korea and Nigeria, who might have individuals but are very lowly ranked.
But to be fair to Norway, as I said, they topped the group with the European champions in the Netherlands in it. So they're not going to go down easy.
They presumably will themselves and France. You'd be looking at the possibility of them will be one of those going through the group.
I think Nigeria have the potential to take a few points off either. Nigeria, I'm really looking forward actually to the game tomorrow with them against Norway. I'd say they're just like an exhilarating team to watch, because they're really good in the counter, really good going forward, but they're absolutely, I don't want to say it too harsh, but they're just so dodgy at the back. Especially just on set pieces. I was watching a highlights reel when they played Sweden and Canada in the group stage last year. It was 3-3, and just some of the goals they conceded, they were incredible, and their goals were amazing, and their counter attack. And on that, Asayat Oshoala, I got that right. I've been practicing my Nigerian pronunciations. She came on in the UEFA Women's Champions League final for Barcelona.
That's right, I remember her coming in. She made a huge difference, actually.
She was incredible.
They got a goal when she came in, didn't they?
Yeah, she made a massive difference. So she started big time 4 years ago, and I think she's only 25.
Is she kind of left winger? Or she's
a striker. She's a striker, really, really fast, really athletic. They all kind of have that kind of similar style as well, but I reckon they could definitely take points off the top 2 teams there.
So don't write them off, but you would be looking at certainly France, Norway, and we'd be interested to see then can Nigeria take a scalp or two in that group. The second group then is Germany, China, Spain and South Africa, and the Germans are seeded second, which is interesting.
Can anyone stop the Germans? I don't know.
They're always a force to be reckoned with.
Like Gary Lineker, the World Cups or whatever they are, about playing how many games and then the Germans always win. They've won 2 in the past. It seems to me that they they were really, really strong when they won the previous World Cups in the mid-noughties, and now that generation have gone. A lot of them actually, interestingly, into coaching and management, so they've moved up the scale, which is great to see. So now we're looking at definitely, what's her name with Leon? Is it Marizan?
Marizan,
she's a fantastic player.
Yeah, she's... You know, I hadn't realised how good she was. I just hadn't seen an awful lot of her. But in the final, she was completely dictating the play. She got the goal.
Yeah,
she was. I think she was nominated for World Player of the Year last year as well, and rightly so after having seen her recently.
Yeah, she's the best playmaker in the world in women's football at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And that's only emerged in the last couple of seasons as well. But
yeah,
I'm not, like Germany. There is a saying, you can never write them off. They've made every single World Cup finals. It's their 8th World Cup finals. They always get to at least the quarterfinals.
Yeah,
they're just so used to winning.
It's just in their nature, I suppose. From a young age.
And you know, they've gone unlucky in quarterfinals and semi-finals as well. Like they go out in penalties a lot of the time. It's really interesting. I think they're a team to watch. I can see why they're ranked as highly as they are, and also their goalie is good.
Yeah,
and I think the American with Solo gone, I think actually that could
There's going to be a different story, because obviously the Americans beat them in the last semi-final. So obviously they were thereabouts.
Yeah, I think so. They've Schultz is her name, and I've seen her in a few games, and I thought, oh, she's actually, because you know, often it's a weakness in women's football is that women are smaller. They don't cover the space as well in goal. So a good goalkeeper is vital, and I think the German goalkeeper is very good. That group also has China, Spain, South Africa. Is that an easy group, do you think?
For Germany, absolutely.
They'd be outrunning favourites.
I think there's no doubt they'll go through first. Potentially China second.
Yeah.
Did you ever come across Spain?
Senior, no. Underage, we would have played them.
They're good underage.
Yeah, they're very good underage. But I suppose once they get to that kind of under 19, under 20s, they just haven't seemed to make the breakthrough in senior level as to
it's interesting. You wonder what the support system is like for them as well from their federation.
So in saying that, I think Spain, China, potentially neck and neck for second. China, I think their best performance was as runners-up in the 99 World Cup final. But I don't think they've progressed massively since.
A lot of their players play in China, so it's really hard to know. All of them do.
Don't really get.
One of them, Wang Chang, is a woman who plays in PSG. She's the one, but most of them are in China, so it is hard to judge, isn't it? You don't know. But I was looking at, I think as well, it looks to me like Germany are on the easier side of the draw, so if they win their group and come through, they're going to be on the opposite end from a lot of the other big guns. I think it's interesting.
Sometimes it's all about the luck of the draw, you know.
Yeah, so true. And then must give a shout out to South Africa. It's their debut appearance in the tournament.
First time ever.
Yeah, so coming against the mighty Germans for your first time ever.
If you're going to qualify for your first World Cup, why not play against one of the bigger nations? I mean, they've nothing to lose, as I said.
Absolutely.
Qualifying was fantastic for them, so it's about just...
And they're one of a few teams that have qualified for the first time.
There's a couple of them.
There's a lot of them, so we'll talk about the other ones as well, because that is great. The next group, I think, is an interesting one. Group C has Australia, Italy, Brazil and Jamaica. Everybody, her picture has already been used, and I saw Australians tweeting because Mary Hannigan had a piece yesterday in the Irish Times, and they used the photo of her. As Sam Kerr is the Australian superstar. She plays in America. She's still playing in America, isn't she? And she has this trademark thing where she, does a cartwheel or a backflip when she scores a goal. So she is a superstar. But is there more to Australia than Sam Kerr is the question. There's about 12 of them play in the American League.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a strong squad. I mean, Sam Kerr, she's playing in her third World Cup. I think she's 25. Yeah, she made her debut at 15.
At 15?
She's never scored in the World Cup, I don't think.
I was about to say that.
That's
not correct.
She doesn't. Really? I don't believe she has a World Cup goal.
I read that as well. I had to take a double check on that.
Australia have qualified for the quarterfinals in their last 3 World Cups, so they don't rely heavily on her. Now imagine she's still involved in play. She'll bring others into the game. It's not always about her goal scoring ability, but we all know she can score goals. I mean, she's 31 goals in 76 appearances for Australia.
Wow.
But I suppose she'll be itching to get that first World Cup goal, and if she gets her first one, that's usually the biggest. That's usually the biggest one.
Everybody will be watching her, and of course, and she will be heavily marked. They have a woman called Elisa Devan, I think, and she's a veteran, and she is probably still there and she's going to be one of the people, I think, as well. You know, everyone's going to look at Sam Kerr. There's going to be people like her, and Caitlin Ford, who also plays in Portland, is in America as well. A lot of them are playing in America.
There's another Ellie Carpenter plays at Portland Thorns as well. She's very Canberra also.
So a lot of them do the short season in America, don't they? And then they go back
and a lot of people are tipping her as one to watch. She's only 19.
Yeah, 19. She's already played like 6 domestic seasons at the top level, which is, I don't know how that works.
She's probably going from the American League to the Australian season as well. Yeah, so she finished up in the NWSL and then went out to Australia then for...
Do you know the really interesting thing about Australia, which I like about them, and it shows how ballsy they are in terms of sport generally? They could have played, and they used to play in an easier section, qualifying, but they said, no, put us into... A few years ago, they wanted to go into the Asian section up against the harder teams.
More competition.
Much harder place to qualify from. Yeah. But that's how Australians... I love the way they think.
Yeah, they also sacked their manager in January.
I think this is really interesting.
Yeah, I think that came to a shock to a lot of even the senior players that were playing for them as well.
I think this could be a factor. Let's see how level they are.
The manager only had like 2.5 months to come in and obviously bond with his players and put his stamp on things.
And there was a lot of controversy over how the previous manager went as well, because however the Australian FA communicated was very badly done, and then he was sort of...
There was a lot of kind of backlash on Twitter and social media.
There was. So that's a really good point. Let's see how settled they are when they really only under a new management.
Yeah. It's actually interesting, and on the other side, a lot of people are saying this actually might help them, because this guy that's come in, I think Ante Milicic is his name.
He was involved in the men's team as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, so he's experienced there as well.
It's a huge experience, not in the women's game, but we've seen with Phil Neville that still can work regardless. But apparently he's shaking them up in the way they play. They're just a complete attacking side now. He plays with 2 really high wing backs, which is not how they previously played.
Seems to be the way to go as well, isn't it? I love it as a centre forward. I love a good wing back. As many bodies as we can get forward as possible.
I think you two are going to love Australia.
Like, what about the centre half?
What are you playing in the middle of that tree?
So that's interesting. How do they maybe they've made a switch and just at the right time. So that's going to be interesting.
Time will tell. I would have picked them as the dark horses. A lot of people are saying it. But yeah, we really don't know.
think they're dark horses. Like they're the top seed. They're seeded 6 and they're the top seed in their group. And the group has Brazil in it. Everyone says Marta, I don't know, is it her 5th World Cup? Something sensational. She's 33.
Yeah, I think it's her 5th.
That's right.
And then
she's only 33.
I couldn't believe she was only 33.
I feel like
she's 33. Yeah.
Or have you come across Formiga, who's 41?
She's 41. If I can still walk at 41, I will be blessed.
I actually thought she was older. I couldn't believe that she's 40 something. That's amazing.
Yeah, incredible.
And they have a lot of older players. That's one of the problems for Brazil, is that they don't seem to have had the injection of youth talent.
I suppose when you've such a figure like Marta, it doesn't really matter who you are coming through. Like I feel she'll always get the limelight. I mean, she's been nominated for the FIFA Women's Player of the Year 13 times and won it 6 times out of that. Like,
that's ridiculous.
And I still can't believe she's only 33 either.
Yeah, I know. I'm still like, what? How is that possible?
So that's the great thing about having this in our timeline, is we're going to see more of her, and we're going to be able to go home and watch her, because the timeline suits us. So Brazil are there. Italy are next seeded in that group. Again, it seems to me that the Italians suffer badly, and I've been reading up a bit about them in terms of support from their national governing body. Doesn't seem to be good at all. It just doesn't seem to be.
No, I mean, this is their first World Cup since 99.
I know.
But then you turn it the other side and you see Juventus got a record crowd
I think
it was like 39,000
against
they
did.
Which is madness. It's great to see. Now we played a friendly against Italy in April.
You did? Away when you were away?
Yeah, when we were away. They beat us 2-1. Similar, they're strong, physical. They can move the ball well, but we had a game plan, and it worked. Once again, we just conceded 2 goals that were easily preventable.
Do you feel like there's a gap, or how big would the gap be, or do you feel like your level quality at this stage, or how do you feel? I
feel like we've come a long way under Colin Bell. We've come a long way. I feel like we can put it up to most teams, if not all teams. We just need to cut out the silly little errors.
A lot of goals scored against you were off set pieces, or just a mistake.
Kind of lapses in concentration or decision making. Which I suppose you can say it's easily worked on. But we just need to get out of that habit, and because the game plan we have once we don't concede, you're always in with a chance.
Yeah.
And Colin
you
pushes
had that
for
famous draw with the Dutch.
Yeah, out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I wasn't involved in that myself, but that was fantastic for the girls, and that kind of got us going. And we were in the World Cup qualifying up until the double header against Norway.
Absolutely, I was at those games, and I'd say physically they bossed you. That was the difference, was that they just seemed to be more physical strength, and they looked like they were people who were training more full time.
Yeah, they were strong. I don't know, kind of, but you look at it, you went out against the Dutch. Game plan was mastered. You look to play on the counter, and there was one or two chances early on in the game as well.
Huge chances.
So we are creating chances as well.
Oh, I think you can see that gap is.
So I'm really looking forward now to the European qualifiers that start obviously off the back of the World Cup.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time.
Sorry,
I think
I've bounced you off track, but when I see the likes of like Italy, Scotland, I just think, God, that's Ireland's level. Like,
you're like
there.
that's.
And Scotland have just qualified for their first.
Yeah, it's amazing to see.
Yeah, so absolutely no reason why. Jamaica are in there, and everyone talks about this. Yeah, well, everyone talks about this girl called what's her name? Kajida Shaw, isn't it?
Yeah,
who's been playing. She's come through the Lady Vols in Tennessee. I didn't know until today, but you have a Jamaican connection.
Yeah, so my dad was Jamaican, so my dad's side of the family are Jamaican. My mum is Irish, but she's rooting for Jamaica in the World Cup. Yeah, I think she probably might support Jamaica a little bit more than Ireland at this stage, but I suppose we're not in the World Cup, so
will the Jarrett household be shouting for Jamaica?
I will be, my mum will be, my little brother Jordan, my twin brother, thinks he's English, but we'll leave him off.
But she's a very exciting player. She's
I think she has more qualifying goals than anybody else in the World Cup.
That's right, I read that. That's amazing. So she's particularly interesting, particularly good, and she has an extraordinary. If you want to read up on her, she has an extraordinary personal history. I mean, awful tragic in her life. 4 of her brothers. She comes from a very big family. 4 of her brothers have died. 3 of them by gunshot, and 1 of them in a car accident. And then she lost 2 nephews as well to crime and violence. So she's had an amazing personal history, and for her to be where she is and to be such a leader of that team is phenomenal.
They are the first Caribbean team, so not just for themselves but for the whole Caribbean. They're the first Caribbean team to qualify for the World Cup,
so they'll all be behind them. And
I was only reading they obviously qualified for it in October, and it's 20 years since the men's team qualified for their World Cup, which was in France 98. So
there's a great connection. Wow. So maybe the omens are good for the Jamaicans. That's interesting. Yeah, I was watching them in their dressing room recently or something, and the colour and the dancing was fantastic. So they're definitely going to win fans.
Definitely very vibrant as well.
They're very vibrant. But Australia, I think that looks like an interesting group, because I think that group might be more complicated than people think it is. But everyone seems to be looking at Australia and thinking they'll come through. The Italians might be a bit of a dark horse, I think, in that group, as you say, because they're very good at underage, and they just haven't been produced at senior level. So we'll see what happens with them. Now, next one is a really interesting group, because it has England, Scotland, Argentina, and Japan.
They're calling it the group of death.
They are. Of course they are.
Fair enough.
There's a witcherness love and all cliche.
It's the one that caught my eye straight away. Obviously, with the England-Scotland game, there's going to be natural rivalry there.
They're opening against them, aren't they?
Yeah. Sunday. Yeah. So that's...
Wow.
That should be interesting.
This is a huge thing for Scotland for a start. Their first World Cup.
Yeah, and obviously they'll be looking to put things right, because they played England in the group stage in the Euros, and they did get beat 6-0.
Yeah.
So obviously...
The opening game, wasn't it? I remember watching that.
Yeah.
So a second opening game in a major championship.
They were missing Kim Little, that competition. She did her ACL, now. So she's back, and she's had a great season with Arsenal.
Yeah, she actually broke her leg last October. Is that correct?
Really?
And she's bounced back really quickly since, so... This will be huge for her, because the Euro 2017, that was the first major tournament Scotland had qualified for, and now she's here, and talk about like the most perfect opportunity to revenge.
So
from the pain.
And Erin Cuthbert is with Chelsea, isn't she? Chelsea. So they have 2 players who would be well known as well, and the English girls would know them well.
They have a few others as well, playing in and around Man City and Arsenal as well.
Right.
And the Scottish FA have pumped more money into them recently as well. They had a lot more money towards training and games in the run up to the World Cup, which is fantastic for them.
Okay,
as well,
so even though like they're seeded third in that group, if you like, it would be interesting if they got off to a bit of it, if they started well against England. But everyone will look at England. Obviously, they're third seeds. They have lots of stars, and they were. I think, did they lose to Germany? I think they lost to Germany on penalties, the last one, and
they lost to Japan. It was Laura Bassett on goal.
That was the third place playoff, wasn't it?
No, so they lost the semi-final in Japan. It was
Germany in the third place playoff. But the semis, it was stoppage time. Do you remember what?
Yeah, it was kind of like a true ball played into the striker from the right winger, and Laura Bassett stuck her leg out to try and stop it, and it looped right over the goalkeeper.
Like a dribbly kind of cross through the ball. It was just so unlucky, and like it hit off the underside of the crossbar and bounced it just in the line, and she was just inconsolable after the game.
I remember now, because I remember how inconsolable she was. That's right. Yeah,
that was.
Ruth, do you think they've moved on, and do you think they are serious contenders? I'm laughing. Somebody's done a female version of Three Lions, and everybody said, well, that's put the hex on them already.
And they're singing It's Coming Home as well.
Exactly.
No, I think they're definitely contenders to win the championship, like really serious contenders. Right. They only dropped 2 points in their whole qualifying campaign, but for me, I suppose the greatest reflection of how strong they are and how far they've come is how they performed in what was called the She Believes Cup in March this year.
Yeah,
and they had a 2-2 draw with the USA, and they
should have won.
Yeah,
they should have won that game. There was 2 fantastic goals by the US in that game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they went on to beat Japan 3-0 in the final.
Yeah.
So it's not as if they just scraped through. They were a strong
side. No, and they
beat
Brazil comfortably as well. And
they deserved to win it. Things have come together at the right time for them. They seem to have gelled really well.
In the pre-tournament challenge games recently. Everyone's gone, oh my God, their form is a bit dodgy.
They've had a bit of. I do think they have good depth in their squad though, and he has been given players game time. He's rested players where he knows he needs to rest them.
So I actually wouldn't pay too much heed.
No, I
wouldn't worry about the last few months.
From listening to him speak, it's about obviously the build-up, getting the players that need game time, getting them game time.
Right. Yeah. And he is Phil Neville is an impressive character, I think. He comes from a family steeped in sport. Not only were they all players, brothers and sisters all played for England, but it's interesting how they've come forward in their management careers.
Yeah, so their sister
managed the netball team. She's just actually announced that she's going to be quitting after the World Cup because she's having a baby, but she was in Ireland this year and spoke at a coaching thing, and is a very impressive woman. So he does seem to, and also I would say he's very demanding in terms of equality and what they get, and making sure that
they are well looked after. I don't think they can want for anything, which is right. It should be that way across the board,
and that is one of the positives of getting someone as high profile as him in. I know there's a lot of, I suppose, like controversy, a bit of negative when he came in.
Why was a man getting the job?
But to be honest, they've just gelled really well.
I think he's brought a new lease of life to it. Obviously, there was a bit of no one knew what was going on when Mark Sampson when he was gotten rid of, but no, I think he's brought a new lease of life to them. Even just videos of them around the camp.
So who do you think are going to be the stellar players and really are going to be the pivotal players for England?
I don't think you can look past Lucy Bronze, although she is playing more in a midfield role now than a right back.
She scored that famous goal as well. I remember
she's the most attacking fullback you'll come across in the World Cup. I love watching her go forward.
Best form of defensive attack though.
She's a great player. She is a good player. Lucy Bronze is brilliant. Nikita Paris obviously is good as well.
She's scoring goals for fun at the minute.
Fran Kirby might be her time to shine now because she hasn't really performed to her potential.
Kind of this season as a whole, kind of injuries have I
was going to say, has she not been injured? Yeah, she plays for Chelsea, doesn't she?
But she's a fantastic player when she is in her stride.
She's a real pocket rocket, isn't she? Yeah.
But then I think they've got goals coming from everywhere. You've got Tony Duggan playing with Barcelona.
Yeah.
Ellen White. She's just after signing for Man City as well. Like
Beth Mead is really good. Beth Mead,
she'll play. She'll play on the wing.
Yeah. So they have depth. They definitely have depth.
Yeah.
So we're looking at England in that group. It's going to be really interesting to see. Japan, as we were saying, they made the last 2 finals. They beat America on penalties in 2011 and then they lost badly to them in 2015 and really they're kind of a bit of an unknown because most of their players don't play outside the country, so it's hard to know about them. Kumaji is the woman who plays with Leon, so they have one good player in Leon, but what do you reckon? I mean, is it hard to know?
It would like that. I think it is quite hard to know, but I think what you will always get with a team like Japan is like they're exceptionally good technically. On the ball, they're just so nice to watch, so neat, so tidy.
They definitely lack like physicality, but like speed and their technical ability.
They make up for it. If you've ever played against any Asian sides, they're just so quick. It's all one-touch football. And like that, they've gotten to the last 2 finals because of that, regardless of physicality or athleticism.
And they still have Nakajima, who's really good on set plays. Like, so they're very good on corners, on free kicks. They're always dangerous as well. They're so good technically. So like they're seeded 7th. They're in that group. And Argentina, I know nothing about Argentina. I don't know whether they have any players even, or whether
they wouldn't have. I think a lot of them are still playing in Argentina. They've one or two that play outside, so a lot of them are semi-professional. I think there was a period of time between like 2015 and 2017 where they didn't even have a national team.
Wow.
Because of funding or support from the Football Association.
Right.
But they are the lowest ranked team in it. So
I think they'll bring some flair, but in terms of results, I don't think they have much hope in the group of death, to be honest.
The group of death. Well, that's interesting. And also, I think Japan did well in the World Under-20s as well. So they could have
won.
They won it. I think they won the last Under-20 World Cup. So it'll be interesting to see. They're probably going to have young players that we don't know about.
I think they've only like 3 or 4 players over 30 in their current squad.
They're young.
So that's
Because I look at, if you look to a lot of the squads, including the American squad, a lot of them are quite old squads, and it will be interesting to see if people have the legs, still over a long tournament. The next group is Canada, Cameroon, New Zealand and Holland, which you'll definitely know things about, and a lot of people tipping Holland, but we'll look at Canada first, I think, because they're a team that a lot of people are saying could be a factor here, and again I think probably the strength of hosting 2015 has been a factor for them as well. Ruth?
I'm not sure about Canada, to be honest. I thought they would have done better the last time around as well, but they've been, they're similar to Norway in that they've a very strong history in the Women's World Cup. They have a really exciting player in Jordan Huitema. She's an 18-year-old.
She's unbelievably young.
She has just signed a 4-year deal for PSG, so she's opted not to go the kind of scholarship
route. The typical route,
and
going to college.
Like what really caught me there was that it was a 4-year contract with PSG. Wow. You don't really hear of
most
not at that age. Anyways, not at that age. 2 year
not really in the women's game either.
So she made her senior debut at 15, I think, for Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So. And then you have Huitema on one stage, 18-year-old, and the other side we've got Christine Sinclair, who's 35.
And is there rock?
Yeah.
And the problem is they say half them aren't. She holds them together because they don't have enough else up front.
Yeah, that's probably a fair comment. I think she's probably coming to the latter stages of her career, but she is going, and she will be certainly going for the record international goal scoring number. So it's Abby Wambach holds, I think it's 184 currently. Christine Sinclair is on 181.
Wow.
So 4 goals of topping that.
The great Abby Wambach, the American player,
Yeah, exactly. And this, I was about to say it's going to be Sinclair's last World Cup. Sure, you never know when you have before me get playing.
Yeah, exactly. 41-year-olds, exactly. So look, there's 2 to watch, and Canada. People are looking at Canada and thinking, right, they're the top seeds. They're seeded 5th overall, and they're the top seeds in their group, so they're going to be strong. A lot of people are looking at the Netherlands, and you have some experience of them.
They are European champions. Now, as I said, they finished 2nd in the qualifying group, and they came through in the playoffs. But Medema up front for them. She blew the Women's Super League apart. No one came there.
Easy.
And she's 22?
Yeah, she's really young. She plays with Arsenal.
Outrageous.
She's been really strong. And Lieke Martins then is the other one who was very good against G in the qualifying group as well, and was kind of the star as well.
And they do have experience as well.
Like all over the pitch, I think Medema, Martins and Danielle van der Donk plays for Arsenal. The 3 together, they're a standout for me. But the thing about the Dutch is, I think they were on such a high from Euro 2017 from winning in their host country. A couple of players taking a dip in form of late, especially Martins. We saw that in the Champions League final for Barcelona.
Final, she didn't figure at all. She was literally marked out of the game. And I was surprised at how physical, because I was at your qualifying game. I thought they looked really strong physically. And in that game, she was pushed off balls. And I just thought, the one I love is Van de Schanden. Is it that the blonde? She's an unbelievable player. She gets up and down the pitch at an unbelievable rate. She plays with Leon. She's a fantastic player. But I think you're right. I was a bit surprised at that as well.
I don't know. I'm not sure if they've kind of tapered out in terms of form or whatever. If other countries have improved their game, and the Dutch haven't quite done that since 2017. But I think they'll certainly get out of the group. But people have asked me, you know, do they have a chance of getting to the final? I think they'll win, and I wouldn't put any money of them getting to the final. I don't think they'll progress.
That's really interesting.
They wouldn't have been a team that
neither of you would fancy.
No, I think they've just slipped out of that top 4, top 5.
Right,
they will be on the perimeter of that, but definitely not in the top 4 for me.
Because I was thinking, they have a decent enough. They might have a decent enough draw with Cameroon and New Zealand are in there.
World class players. There's no doubt in that.
Yeah.
But I do think there are better teams, and we will see better teams in this World Cup.
And what showed that I think best was it was that final game in your qualifying campaign where Norway beat them.
Yeah.
They had to go through a playoff, didn't they? Then
they did.
I think that knocked them for 6 because they definitely weren't expecting that.
Yeah. But Norway actually looked a different level, whereas I would have thought it was going the opposite way. I thought the Dutch coming up and Norway were kind of going down, but from that game and onward since, for me the Dutch just won't be contenders.
Well, that's really interesting now, because you're the first people and you're the experts who said that, and I'll be interested to see it. But as you said, Medema was the top, wasn't she the top scorer in England in the Super League this year? And she was a superstar.
I think it was Nikita Paris was behind her with 19.
So you'll see her anyway. I mean, they play lovely football. It would be really interesting to watch them, because they do play lovely football. But how far on they can go will be the interesting thing. And I don't know anything about neither New Zealand or Cameroon. I don't know whether you do.
From Cameroon, they got to the last 16 in 2015, so they got out of the group. But in terms of getting out of this particular group, I think Canada and the Netherlands.
I think they're the two obvious ones.
I don't think New Zealand have won a game in the World Cup finals.
Right, and I can't see anybody either of those. I think they're the obvious two to come out of that, and I think you're right too. I think Canada are definitely going to come out at the top of that quicker. And then finally, and it's the last group, and obviously it has the defending champions in it. And we might have I might have some controversial opinions about the Americans.
Go on.
Love a bit of controversy.
American defending champions, and they're in a group with Thailand, Chile and Sweden. So, I mean, how would you regard the group?
I think it's given USA on top.
Yeah.
Do you reckon Sweden second?
Yeah, USA, Sweden.
Chile will do well to score a goal or two, I'd say.
I think Thailand will be similar. It's their second World Cup. They did win in their first appearance. They bet the Ivory Coast.
Oh, right.
In their final group game of the last World Cup. But USA should definitely
win
top in that group. Yeah. They've had a big shake-up since the Olympics in Rio in 2016.
Yeah, so tell us about them. First of all, a lot of people will know that off the pitch they have a class action against their association looking for equal pay, and that has, I think, taken some of their energy. There's no doubt there's been a bit of that about it, but also they go into this World Cup now with a point to prove. They're looking to put back-to-backs together. They're also looking to make this case that they should win, they should be equal, they should have equal pay and all that. So that's a big motivating factor for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they actually perform. They would have been disappointed with their She Believes tournament that they host.
They did really badly in it, didn't they?
Yeah, even I watched their game against England, and yes, they drew it 2-2, and there was 2 fantastic goals by the US. But England should have won it. I don't think the US played anywhere near where I've seen them play.
Right.
But then that's a credit to England as well. They have come a long way. The US, I suppose, they have a mixture of vast experience, and they've brought in some younger players as well. So it will be interesting to see how they get on. As you said, they're defending champions.
Never been outside the medals in any World Cup. They've always made a podium. At some, they've always won a medal, which is interesting. Yeah. But when you look at the Title IX, 1972, that government decision that girls and women had to get access to the same facilities and coaching and things in schools and college, you can see where women's football grew. It is a massive.
I love when you bring this up, Cliona. That was my thesis in college. So I done
a small. That touched on mine a small bit as well. Yeah.
Of course, that was it. That was the start of it all. It's made a huge difference. That was 72.
Yeah.
So, and look how much it's prospered since and flourished. So I wonder, could we ever consider something similar here in Ireland?
That's a long way. That is a long way.
We do another podcast for that.
Do you know what I think about America? Rightly so. They still have Megan Rapinoe. They still have Alex Morgan up front.
I have a soft spot for Megan Rapinoe.
Megan Rapinoe, I think, is a brilliant player.
But even obviously the injury category, she's done her knee 3 times as well.
She's come back from 3 as well.
Yeah,
you can identify with her.
Did she tweet you one time?
Did she?
So when she didn't tweet me. I got tweet off Jack Wilshere. When I done my knee for the 3rd time, we were away in the Cyprus Cup, and Jerry McDermott, who was our media officer, he knew someone who knew her, and he reached out, and we were just on the bus coming back from training, and he was like, I have something to show you. So we came up, and she sent me an email.
Go away.
Obviously, just talking about the
emails even better than the tweets.
Talking about the highs and lows,
absolutely.
and that she's been there, and obviously it's a select group, and she has a campaign about that for people that do their ACLs. And it was just nice for, obviously she's no idea who I am, never met me before in my life, and obviously sent me a huge email. So that
my favourite American player from now on. That's so lovely. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you're definitely going to be rooting for her. But I think she's a brilliant player. I know Alex Morgan gets a lot of the attention, but I think Rapinoe is a fantastic player.
She is, and like she's strong off the pitch as well, in everything that she does, and she's a great playmaker, and she will come up with goals when needed as well.
And they're known for this, a very athletic style, very attacking style. They still have, is it Tobin Heath, is the other player as well up front, so they have like that. And as you say, I'm interested who they've got younger players then coming through obviously as well.
I think they just have a mix, like as I said, after the Olympics.
There's quite a lot of talk about Mallory Pugh.
Yes, there's a lot of talk about Mallory Pugh and people tipping her to be one to watch.
Yeah, she hasn't really established herself as
not from what the talks were.
Not from what we thought was coming about 2 years ago when news of her broke when she came in. She was about 16. I think Morgan will still start up front and still probably be the standout player.
She has 100 international goals. That's
not bad.
Nice little thing to rattle.
They've still got Carly Lloyd to come off the bench as well. I know she's more of
the incredible thing. Carly Lloyd is still there and could come off the bench. That is the phenomenal thing. But here's my theory, right? One, they don't have Hope Solo anymore. They don't. Lisa Nair is not as good a goalkeeper. I think she's prone
But I
to making
think
mistakes.
if you take away Hope Solo's personality and ego, they might thrive from that. They might benefit from them as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because she's such a strong character. It might allow others to grow into themselves more.
That's a very good point.
And they could have other leaders coming.
I know it's a really topical conversation at the moment, because I was watching the panellists just discuss the She Believes Cup. I find it really fascinating to watch American pundits. It's just gas, and they're all very firmly of the belief that no one can come in and replace her, that the back line is falling apart, and that there's just no communication and a lack of leadership back there. But I would totally go in that point as well. I think that's definitely one positive that can be taken from Solo going.
They just need someone to step up, and this could be the time. I'm interested to see how they do it.
To see how they do it. That is a very good point. The other thing I think that might not be in their favour is that Europe has moved on since. I think that there has been, we can see how the English Super League there's so many good
people are catching up.
I think so. I think Europe has caught up. France, obviously, we saw again this year. We saw Champions League games this year as well, the quality of them. It seems to me that there has been a big jump in standard in Europe since the last World Cup, and I wonder, are the Americans conscious of that? I'm sure
because, as you had mentioned, Title IX and 1972, they were so far ahead.
Ahead of everyone else.
It was inevitable that, and we all hope that other countries, especially across Europe, will catch up, and now it's happening. So it's not as if they're getting worse or declining, really. I think just the gap has narrowed so much so quickly. And that's what I keep saying to people, is why I want people to watch this World Cup, because 2015 was actually so good. Not all the games, but in the terms of the knockout stages, the quality was great.
As it went on, it got
whereas this should really be top quality universally across.
You've got some great games in the groups as well.
In the groups,
You've got some
I think you're absolutely right, the two of you.
So
this technically should be the best World Cup, because so many teams have come up in standard.
It will be.
And this is what's going to test the Americans, I think. The other thing that's interesting as well is they're on the harder side of the draw. So I think, looking at it, if France go through, France, Germany and America are on the same side. So eventually one is only going to come out of that, which is interesting,
France, Germany and America,
France, Germany and America, I think they're all on the same side. I could be wrong on that, but I think they are. No, not Germany. France and America. I think France and America could meet in a quarter-final.
Yeah, I think you're right, because
it's very early as well.
Yes, it's very early. Somebody's going to go there.
I'm running a sweepstakes in work, actually, everyone. So it's not, you don't just predict the winner, you have to predict all the scores of all the group stages, and then the last 16, quarter-final, semi-final, final. It's a lot of work. Lawyers like this kind of stuff.
They love their research. It's what they do for a living.
I have a little note here. I'm going to help myself with my notes. Yeah, England and France and America are on the same side.
Okay,
and I think France and America could meet in a quarter-final, and England could meet the winner. Yeah. So that's the interesting thing. Whereas Germany are on the other side, and I think that could be in Germany's favour in terms of even getting to the final.
Yeah, it's a pity because I'd love to see USA and France meet later on in the tournament. I'd like to see them in the semis or even the final. I think that'd be a great final. Yeah. But if it comes to France and USA, that'll be a huge hurdle for the States to overcome.
Yeah, it would be a really interesting one. So that's the general roundup. That's brilliant because you've given people loads of context now and loads of things to do. I also think there's a bit of a history between Germany and America. There's a bit of a history there, and like they'll want to get back. There's a history between Japan and America as well. Like there's a couple of real grudge games going on, and I think England and Germany as well have a bit of history.
Always, men and women across the board for sure.
So all those if and when those things happen, who do you fancy? Who do you think could make semi-finals? I mean, if you were to look at the top, even if you weren't to look, even to be real, just on a hunch.
Let Rianna go first. Go on.
I'm really liking England.
Really?
Dare I say, I enjoy watching them play. I suppose it's easier to watch their players week in, week out.
We see more of them. Yeah.
When you know them,
it's easier to grow towards them. So I do think they can do well. But then there's always a curse over English teams. So
this is true.
And they have that song. This Georgia Stanway, I'm just in love with her. She's amazing.
She's after having a great season for Man City this year.
She's unbelievable. She's only 20. She was Young Player of the Year in England. I just think she's one to watch just for people. Even if England don't make the final, watch out for her. And I mean, she probably won't start. I don't know whether she starts. She probably won't start.
Possibly not. No, they have a lot of experience and goal scorers in that area, which, as I said, they've goals coming from everywhere.
She's just gifted. And she's very interesting because she's that first generation who have never had a job. I was reading an article with her recently.
Yeah, she signed a professional contract.
She signed a professional contract and she went straight into football. And in England, they're saying she's a prototype.
It was funny looking at the pictures before the Women's FA Cup final. Did you see the picture of her and Steph Houghton? No. So it was like obviously a few years ago when she was younger. She was tiny.
She was the mascot.
Yeah, and then she's playing club football with her and international football with her.
That's right.
So obviously she would have been one of her heroes as well. It was like the Colin Cooper photo.
People will know that Colin Cooper photo of the club at the All-Ireland, and he was the mascot. That's exactly right. It would have been the same thing, She has it everywhere. She has the stature, she has the skill, she has the speed. I just think she's stunning. She's my one to watch in the tournament. So go back to, what about you? So you do fancy England?
So you're in England all the way?
Yeah, I don't know if that's because I'd like to see them. Dare I say it? I would like to see them.
No, I would like to see them do well. Like I really would, which is weird because with the men's I really don't
with the men, no, I have no connection to them. As I said, it's probably because they're players we get to see week in, week out.
We're watching Irish players playing with them now.
As well.
That makes a difference. But I'm going France. I'm going to go with France. I really like France. Yeah, I don't know, I get a feeling about them, but I'm always wrong, so I just
the curse of Ruth Fahy.
I don't know, like everything seems to have lined up quite well for them. I think it's huge being the host country. I just
hope the pressure doesn't get to them. Obviously they haven't played a competitive game.
There's so much experience, like Pepper throughout the team, so I don't know. I would like to see England do well, but I think France will do it.
We tend to see a lot of goals as well, and I think we're going to see a lot of goals in this tournament.
I love to see that.
I think we'll see goals tonight.
Interestingly, France are strong defensively, and I think that could stand to them. That's the big thing. That's one of their big strengths, isn't it?
Yeah.
That they have that really solid spine.
If you want to see a masterclass in defending, just watch Wendy Renard. She's just incredible. Not a huge amount of pace. Doesn't need it. She's so strong.
And her positioning is
and you won't miss her. 6'1". She's in set pieces in terms of attacking as well. She's absolutely lethal.
Right.
So she'll be.
So Wendy Renard is one for you. And anybody else you want to mention?
I suppose going back to Canada, Haitama is going to be huge. I love seeing a young player come through. Absolutely.
There's always one that comes through as well.
There's always, isn't there?
I can't wait to see Formiga play, 41-year-old.
41-year-old,
I'm just so blown away by her. But in terms of France, it'll be Lesselmaire. Henri's my favourite player. She's like a holding midfielder, number 6.
Right.
Just really tidy.
She plays for Lyon as well, doesn't she?
Exactly.
You'd like that position though as well. That number 6.
Holding midfielder.
You two have your own, obviously. One thing we should say as well to listeners is that Ireland didn't qualify and really had a brave campaign, and we'll talk in a minute as well about when the next one is, but really brave campaign, and under Colin Bell, who is going to be part of the commentary team or part of the analysis team, I think, with RTE, have really seemed to have made progress, and we have so many good players now playing in strong clubs in England, you know, and Arsenal, Man City, West Ham, so you know they're really getting that experience that they need. That's brilliant. But we have actually got one woman who has qualified for the World Cup, and that is a woman called Michelle O'Neill, who is from your native
Wexford. Yeah, so
from your native Wexford.
I'd know Michelle quite well. She would have refed a lot of Women's National League games, Men's League of Ireland games. Yeah. She was a fourth official at the last World Cup in Canada.
That's right. It's her second one.
She got the final that year as well. Actually,
she's amazing.
She was actually showing me her final medal from that, which is fantastic.
She's I wrote an article about her. You'll get it on the Irish Times website. A fascinating woman. She herself and Paula Brady are the only two Irish women who have FIFA qualifications. Michelle has as an assistant referee, and that means she does everything in Ireland. She can referee women's games, Women's National League games, but she does want linesman. But that's what she wants to do. She wants to do linesperson. And then Paula Brady has referees, FIFA referees, so she would do Champions League and stuff like that as well. So amazing that we have officials at that level, and it's her second time to go, and just brilliant to see her there and showing how it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're interested in being an official, you can go up the ladder.
Michelle will tell you that. I was speaking to her a couple of weeks ago, and we were just chatting about obviously me being back playing, and she's like, I know you're not ready now, but when you do hang up the boots, come talk to me and we'll get you into refereeing.
She's recruiting already.
Oh, she has been for a number of years. She's a lifeguard, and one of the years I was doing my rehab, I was out in the swimming pool and I was chatting to her about refereeing, and kind of since then she's been like kind of just dropping little hints.
Can you imagine refereeing the likes of yourself? Like, was that?
I wouldn't have a problem refereeing myself. I'm okay. There's a few others. I'd be quite quiet when it comes to referees.
Well, she told me she would never have thought she was going to be a referee herself. Never.
She says that to me as well.
She said she's the most unlikely referee. And she kind of finished playing football just when the Women's National League was starting, so she missed that wave.
She missed that era.
She just missed it, but it's brilliant to see her performing at the top level. And there were 300 shortlisted for assistant referees for this World Cup, and there's 38 of them got through, and she's one of them. And she works with a team, a French referee and an Italian woman who works with the French referee. So there's a team of three, and they did the World Under 20 final. I think was the one they did as well. They did the England-China game, semi-final in the last World Cup. So like she's really top class official. So brilliant to see her there. And best of luck to her. Rianna, before we finish up, we should talk. You're en route to a match. Came all the way from Wexford up to us. You've got a game tomorrow.
Yes, we have a Women's National League game tomorrow in Galway against Galway. So I'll head up there then.
You're lying second in the table at the moment?
So yeah, we're second at the moment. We are 5 points behind Peamount at the top.
Right.
So we've Galway this weekend and we play Peamount next weekend.
And the top three at the moment are Peamount on the top. You're just 2 points behind.
Yeah, and then I think Shelburne are a point or two behind us. And then Galway. Yeah.
Right, okay. And the season is long.
Yeah, so we're only kind of in the start of the second round of fixtures. So we play each team 3 times.
Yeah.
And then you've got the League Cup and the FAI Cup games thrown in as well.
And you've made the League Cup final already?
So we've made the League Cup final. So we beat Limerick in the semi-final last weekend. Brilliant. And Shelburne came out on top against Peamount in the other semi-final.
So you're having a great season?
We've started off okay. Obviously we're looking to build, take each game as it comes. And we're coming up to the mid-season break, so we're looking to get as many points as possible in the next 3 games.
And for people who want to go to games, they're usually on Saturday nights, am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, so most teams play on Saturdays, Saturday. 6:30 or 7 o'clock.
Exactly.
And then I think it's only Kilkenny and Cork play Sundays at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, and there's a break coming up as well though in the league.
So yeah, our last game will be the weekend of the 23rd of June, and we play again then the weekend of the 14th of July.
Why is that break? Is there something on?
So it's usually the mid-season break is usually around the time of the Leaving Cert, but the World Student Games is on this year, so there's a lot of girls in college that are heading to Italy for the World Student Games.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I quickly ask before we leave, how are you finding the quality of the league? How is it going in terms of progressing, in terms of teams? Are there still really weak teams? Are teams kind of evening out?
There's still a gap between obviously Peamount, Wexford and Shelburne.
And then it's a big
Galway Galway on their day, they'll put it up to anyone.
They will.
They've been unlucky.
Roots from Galway.
They've been unlucky against Peamount. They took a point. They came away with a point against Shelburne. We bet them 2-1 the last time we played them, so they're no easy game.
And you were saying Cork have a load of young players.
Cork have a lot of young players coming through, a lot of young internationals, and they are fantastic players. The issue in Cork over the years has been keeping players. I'm not sure if it's been with the structure of the club, but they've always had some fantastic players, and they're starting to retain them now, so they're only going to improve. I think if Galway can become more consistent, I do think they have the players there and the setup to threaten it as well.
That's good, because so Galway, Cork potentially can be up there
and then
soon
you've got the Kilkennys, the Limericks, and UCD, well, DLR, they're going through a big transition at the moment, so they have a very young squad. And then
I'm always interested to hear from people who are still playing.
Because Ruth did a podcast with us, I remember, about 2 years ago, and your argument was the problem is that the top teams are good, but it's trying to get the next ones to come under them, and
people are leaving, of course.
So people are going and moving and changing, and how do you have that longevity in the league?
No, it's good to hear, because I'll come on things like this and talk about it, but you know best, you're still in it, it's okay to watch it, but you'll know from playing in it.
And Wexford are interesting, because ye, if you don't mind me using the phrase, ye hoover up players from the southeast, so you can get players from Limerick, or from Kilkenny, Carlow, from that area.
We actually there's only a handful of us that are actually from Wexford. We've Kilkenny, Carlow, Waterford. Lauren Kelly has come to us from Kildare. Ruth Fahy's come to us from Kildare, and then over the years we managed to get a route down from Galway, Emma Hansbury from Sligo, and Claire Reardon from Limerick.
But it is important to see, so if there is a club that attracts the talent, and that's where that base is, and it's building the other ones and making sure they're strong enough, because it is the more, that's the big thing.
We should probably mention as well fundraising for Champions League. Is it how's that going?
So that is a bit of a touchy subject. Obviously we have to do fundraising in general. Each season each player has to bring in a certain amount of money, so a lot of us have businesses that will sponsor us, which is fine. The same business will sponsor you for a number of years, so that's just really to cover the cost of the National League season. Our men's team, Wexford FC, they're not great financially, so we wouldn't get any kind of backing or funding from them. And then you throw in the Champions League on top of that, so last year we were in Belfast, so obviously you take away a lot of costs. Now UEFA do pay for 18 players, and I think it's 5 staff members, but you've got more than 18 players. You've got more than 5 people that help out. So we do have to fundraise for that, and this year so we're not hosting it. The FI haven't put in to host it, Northern Ireland team haven't put in to host it, so it is likely we're going to have to travel. So the club are doing fundraisers at the minute, so they set up a GoFundMe page. I'm not too sure how that's going. That's a bit, I'm not a fan of that sort of fundraising.
It's a hard way to generate money, really.
So we are looking at other ideas, and I'm sure Tom has a few things
so as well as playing, you've got that as well on top of it. I remember interviewing one of your players before the FA Cup final last year, and she was making that point that the problem for you is if you could just concentrate on playing, but you've had to do a lot of fundraising as well, and that's difficult.
And that's, I suppose, every team is like that. We're not the only ones that are like that, but obviously when the Champions League costs, and don't get me wrong, qualifying for the Champions League is fantastic. I got to play in my first one last year when we were in Belfast. Obviously with injuries I've missed a few.
Scored against Ajax.
The game kind of went downhill from there, so.
always have that goal against Ajax.
That was a great feeling, and even the celebrations after that goal. We conceded 4 after that. We went 1-0 up and conceded 4 then in the second half.
I watched it on the stream.
It was a good 10 minutes.
Well, it's interesting, and we're talking about money as well, because the prize money for this Women's World Cup is 24 million. That's doubled since 2015.
Wow, I actually didn't know that.
Didn't know that either.
It's doubled since 2015, but the prize money for the Men's World Cup is 350.
It still doesn't come close.
So it's a little sneeze in the...
start somewhere.
What's the prize money for the Women's National League? $6 grand?
5 or 6 grand. How much does it cost to run a club for the season? I'm not even going to tell you.
And this is the challenge. And so you have to admire the Americans for the stand that they're taking, because we can see the Australians, even in the last few weeks, have come out and said they're looking for equal pay now for their players.
To be fair to the US team, I think they generate more money than the men's side do.
They do. This is their argument.
So they have ground.
Oh, they have huge
grounds.
But but also because they've been so strong on it. You know, the Danes, the Danes and the Norwegians have followed suit, and other people are following. And it's also actually even. The Danish one is interesting because I think the men's took a cut in one of their budgets to give money to the women's side. So it's really it has had social change, which is really important as well. Listen, guys, thanks so much. That's been brilliant. Ruth, we really look forward to listening to you, and also I'm sure you're going to look forward to it. That's brilliant. I'm
really excited. There's quite a lot of fear, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Fear is good. Embrace the fear. Embrace the fear. And obviously, Rianna, best of luck to you in the rest of the year as well. And we'll be watching. We'll have a special eye, and I'm going to follow Megan Rapinoe, whatever she does now. She's going to be. I'm going to be shouting for her on the TV. Just to finish off, first of all, you can find all our previous episodes on iTunes, or if you go into the Off the Ball podcast section in the offtheball.com and scroll down, you'll find Off the Bench. You'll find all our previous ones there as well. And we have a Twitter account as well, which is at Off the Bench OTB, capital OTB, if you want to send us any messages or any suggestions for future ones. It's going to be World Cup-orama for the next 4 weeks, but there are other things happening in women's sport in Ireland, and we know how important it is. And one of them is the Olympic Hockey World Cup qualifier is on in Banbridge from the 8th to the 16th of June. We know what a brilliant time they gave us last summer. So if you can get to Banbridge, even for one of those games, you really are showing your support to them in the best possible way. And the Camogie Championship is starting as well on the weekend of June the 15th with a cracking game. It's a rematch of Galway and Kilkenny, which was the Division 1 league final this year that Galway won. So that's a great start. And the Football Championship is already up and running in the provincial series. So loads to watch, loads to see, but it is going to be football. And thanks so much, you two, Rianna and Ruth, for bringing context and understanding to it. We'll enjoy it much more now. Thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
All right, thanks everybody, and see you next time.